But what we have been trying to do over the last number of years is just compile some of the information that's, I think, crucial for you guys to know before you get here and as you start to navigate those first couple of weeks. Really, what we're trying to do is give you this information to kind of empower you guys to have the easiest sort of transition to life here in Chicago, as well as trying to keep yourselves kind of safe. So thank you, Jamie, for compiling all of this. And then Rory, with that, I'll hand over to you to maybe talk a little bit about the network. And obviously, thank you, Rory, for partnering with us on this.
Awesome. Yeah. No, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jamie. Hi, folks. Rory Barnwell here. I'm the president of the Ireland Network Chicago. It's a volunteer. We're also a nonprofit, but we're a volunteer-based organization. My day job is I'm an engineer. I'm a principal at a architectural engineering design firm. I graduated from Bolton Street in Dublin with building services engineering. I probably hold the record for most J1s. I don't know anyone that's had more J1s than myself. So I think I had four J1s starting in the summer of 97. So aging myself here, but I think I'm technically going for my 27th J1 summer here, but no, not really. But you get my drift. I'm an eternal J1er, but no, I graduated from J1 visas to H1B visas to green cards to staying here long term. So I know the context of this conversation is this summer, but yeah, definitely want to kind of introduce you all to who the Ireland Network are and Irish Community Services are probably our closest charity partner. So we partner up, and myself and Paul have worked together for many years Paul's also on the committee for the Ireland Network. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'll throw it back to Jamie here first for a kind of who are Irish Community Services.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. And yeah, I know, Paul, you already gave a pretty good overview. So, yeah, we are a nonprofit in Chicago. We're actually one of, I think, a dozen Irish centers across the US. So these are nonprofits that are located in cities where there is, a larger Irish diaspora, which is both maybe recent Irish immigrants um, kind of temporary, visitors such as yourselves, such as J1 students, or even J1 visitors that are on like a 12-month visa. And then kind of, more settled Irish American communities as well. So our goal is to connect all of those different communities for the purpose of everyone's well-being and social connectedness. And we do that through a wide variety of community programs, cultural programs, and then what's seen as more typical social services. So maybe providing some help for vulnerable community members, those with disabilities, the elderly. And then we also have immigration programs. If anyone has questions on US citizenship, Irish citizenship, their Irish passports, which you will see I talk about a lot in this presentation because your Irish passport is very important, a very important document in your J1 journey. So we do a wide variety of things. One of those things is supporting J1 visitors such as yourselves. And at the end of these slides, I do have our website linked, our email, and you're very welcome if you just have things, like a question or an issue comes up while you're here this summer, you're welcome to email us and just say, hey, maybe it could be something like I found, this apartment. Does this seem like a good area to live in? Or, I misplaced my passport. What do I do? You're welcome to reach out to us with any of those kinds of questions. And I'll hand it back to Rory to share a little bit more about the Ireland Network.
Excellent. It's a great picture of Paul there in the middle. Um, but no, so I have a few slides here just kind of explaining who the Ireland Network Chicago are, what we're all about. Let me just move this down. Is that in the way of the text right now? If I move it down, or is that just on my screen?
It looks good.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry, just on my screen. So again, as I said, the Ireland Network is a non-profit volunteer-based organization. I'd say our three main pillars of what we do are, revolve around social, cultural, and business networking for Irish people, friends of Ireland, Irish Americans. I think our charter, our mission is really to, be that bridge, be that network to plug into for newly arrived Irish. Our supporters for, uh, who pays the bills for us is, our corporate sponsors, people such as Kerry or Nua, Glanbia, some of those Irish companies that you would know that have a heavy presence here in the Midwest. But also, the Department of Foreign Affairs and specifically the Immigrant Support Program. We would be very, very closely tied with the consulate in Chicago, and yeah, as I said, it's we're not quite a chamber of commerce, a business, all in business network. We have fun too. So I think I usually refer to the three C's. We have crack, culture, and connections. In terms of who we are and our reach, we've got about 250 paid up members. They're people, Irish people typically, or Irish Americans that live in Chicago. They've been, here for the longer term. So, we'll talk about that in the context of why this is relevant for you guys who may just be here for the summer. Or, when we get to the Q&A and we have a chat here, when we drop down the slides, I'd be interested to hear how many of you are looking at this as an opportunity, maybe to come back and, continue your professional careers after you've graduated from college. So yeah, we have a broader reach of about 2,000 email subscribers. So that's all the people who didn't pay for the membership, I guess, right? But still want the emails. And good social media following. So as Jamie said, we'll have a slide at the end here to hook you up on all our socials, but definitely would encourage you to follow and see what's going on. And I have a slide at the end here for some events that are specifically relevant for the J1ers. Again, I'm the current president, but I'm standing on the shoulders of giants who came before here, and the Ireland Network Chicago, for context, would be the strongest Ireland network in North America and the original one. We're celebrating 20 years of being a network. So got just some shots from the old days here. Top right corner, you might recognize Packy Bonner in the middle there. So we've had some some high profile guests over the years to our annual celebration. So our kind of the pinnacle of our year is our Black Tie Gala. And this not, it looks like a stuffy corporate affair, but it's really not. There's plenty of stuffy corporate affairs in Chicago. Our event is more definitely leans into the crack aspect, and we would we have a heavy emphasis on bringing youth to the table, quite literally here, with corporate sponsorship to offset the costs of under 30 tickets. So again, if you were in the with the long-term view of coming back again and starting a career in Chicago, would definitely this is a great option to meet up with 450 or so of your peers in Chicago. And then coming out of that Black Tie Gala, this is a photo from last year, and we also raise money for our charity friends, including there's another photo of me and Paul there together. So we as I said, Irish Community Services it's one I personally really feel very strongly about, like that is doing really, really strong and important work. So we're proud to be a strong supporter as well of ICS. And obviously concern here as well, as you see in the left. Just a quick snapshot on a typical events calendar for the Ireland Network Chicago. We got a first Friday every month, so obviously 12. I'll touch in the end here. We'll have 3 of those that you guys will be in town for, and would definitely encourage you to go to. We have partner events with, again, once you get into the mix here in Chicago specifically, you'll see there's lots of Irish organizations. I guess our differentiator is we're kind of the connector between them all. Again, we're apolitical, we're not religious. We're just about the 3 buckets I mentioned: social, cultural, and business, and being that dot connector for newly arrived Irish, or companies that are starting up in Chicago, or people that maybe the companies I mentioned, like Kerry or Nua, have a new employee coming over and setting up for long term. We're that network that they can immediately plug into, find like-minded people to have a conversation with, to go to cultural events with, and and beyond. So typical. We have a really strong foundation and a deep and diverse network of people to connect to. We also, we do Ireland Network, what we call Ireland Network Conversations. This would be we get a grant from the Immigrant Support Program via the Department of Foreign Affairs to host these conversations. So typical ones we've had in the last, 12, 24 months would be Irish sport in Chicago down there in the bottom left. For the soccer fans, that's Gary Doherty there, former Spurs player. I was kind of proud of that event because we brought together the rugby heads and the soccer heads and the hurling and football and camogie and everyone onto one panel and had a great discussion about Irish sport in Chicago. And it was really cool to see the differences, but more importantly, the commonalities between the different codes and how at the end of the day, everyone was kind of focused on a lot of the same things. And mental health awareness was a big one that came up there, a big theme that ran throughout. But bottom right was also one I was very proud of personally as well, where we brought, these are all members of our network here, including Neil Murray, the CEO of JLL, and top architecture firms represented, top financing firms, brokerages. So again, it was just a good snapshot and a panel discussion into people in our network, and we do have people in some pretty good influential spots in pretty much any industry you can think of. And we do the fun stuff too. Our signature events would be our annual general meeting, which is coming up here, golf outing, boat cruise, which will be falling into your guys' time frame, and that would be something I would definitely encourage you to attend, and our black tie ball that I mentioned. But we also give back through a lot of volunteer events and host a lot of ministers. Every time a minister's in town, they kind of always stop in and chat with us. So, and then in terms of the future, where we're going, again, as I mentioned, we celebrated, we're just turning past 21 years old. So I guess we're old enough to drink in America now. But we want to leverage Chicago's position as Ireland Network, Chicago's position as the strongest network in the country, and really that crossroads of Irish America. So there's, we're recognized, this was a conference I attended in Seattle where I got to meet other Ireland networks from Portland and Seattle and Denver, Dallas, go down the list, Atlanta. And they definitely all look back to Chicago as the leader in that network. So I guess all of that is to say that if you have aspirations to come back, and whether it's in Chicago or further afield, there's a strong network and diaspora to tap into. So Jamie, yeah, I'll throw it back up to you, and feel free if you want to take control of the slides here.
Yeah, I think
make it easier.
Yeah, I
Do you want
think
me to?
I
I'll
will.
stop there.
Yeah, you can stop. Perfect. Okay, thanks so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Rory. Yeah, Rory gets to share the fun stuff, and now I'm kind of down to the business. So we're going to switch gears. And, you all did a great job of asking a lot of questions when you registered. I think almost 10 people asked about housing and accommodation. So we're going to start with that. And I'm actually going to open up a poll that I want you all who are attending just to answer this question real quick while I bring up the next slide. Okay, I'm going to launch it now. Hopefully that worked. Let's see if some answers are coming in. Okay, I'm seeing answers. Good. Okay, great. Okay, so the question was, and let me see. Oh, wait, do we have everyone yet? Almost. Okay, a couple more. Yeah, so almost everyone answered. So I'm going to end the poll and then share the results with you all. Hopefully you can see those. So the question is, how did you find housing in Chicago? And I wanted to ask that question because I know, 8 people, right? So almost half of you are still looking for housing, but a lot of people have found it. So maybe this can give hope, what's the best route to go. I'm actually surprised to see that most of you who found it, it was through social media. I definitely want to hear more about that. I'm curious if it was on the J1 Facebook groups, or was it more through like posting on Chicago housing groups? I'm curious about that. And if anyone wants to share in the Q&A where they found their housing on social media, I think that could be helpful for other people here. We have a couple through housing websites, and then a couple through friend and family connections. So it's interesting to see. But yeah, we have some tips for you as well. So let's delve in. So it's not too late to find housing. For the 8 of you who are still looking, that's pretty normal. Chicago is a city where, I mean, you almost can't find an apartment until 1 month before you want to move, which can make it feel very frantic and stressful. And I do resonate with that feeling, but it is a normal timeline. A few weeks or a month before is normal. Now, it's best to see your apartment in person, right? To have, to go to the unit and have a showing with the landlord. Obviously, you're in Ireland. How are you going to do that? So the next best thing you can do is a video tour of the unit. I really recommend that you ask the landlord to be on FaceTime or video with you, and then just go room by room as you get to talk to them and ask them questions. In addition to doing that, though, we've heard that there can be scams. Unfortunately, people will kind of take advantage of the fact that, you're out of the country, and then maybe have online postings that are fake. So we want you to check the legitimacy of these postings through many different means. Mostly just use the fact that you are young and you can use the internet really well, right? So type in the address of that unit on Google and see if you can find that unit on different housing websites. Is it on Zillow, apartments.com, Domu, etc. Also, Chicago has a lot of big property management companies, so you should be able to look at their websites. You should even be able to see reviews of them online to check the legitimacy of this apartment. Now, in addition to doing all of that, we have some other general tips. So of course, maybe you're not feeling comfortable just looking online and finding your apartment that way. You really do want to see it in person. We do recommend maybe getting a hostel or an Airbnb for 1 to 2 weeks. And maybe that's just like your first stop in Chicago, and you're looking at apartments in person while you're doing that. I know that that can feel a little stressful too in other ways, but it is a good way to kind of guard against any scams or fraud. Some other general tips: don't overcrowd your unit. I mean, that should go without saying, right? But we are seeing that housing in Chicago, and I've heard in Ireland, it is getting more expensive. Of course, it would be tempting to have more roommates to lower that cost. But the reality is, if you do that and your landlord finds out, you could be evicted, you could risk your housing, and then being evicted could actually put your J1 visa in jeopardy too. So there are some pretty big risks there. In Chicago, housing is usually unfurnished. And then in terms of price, yeah, it's going to be, for a 1-bedroom, maybe quite a bit, upwards of 1,000, maybe looking at more like 1,500, 1,600. And then for a 2-bedroom, we're looking at 2,000 or upwards of that per month. So I know it can be pretty pricey, pretty tough. I'm going to just pause and remind you, if you have questions, go ahead, use the Q&A chat. You're welcome to do that right now, because Paul is monitoring that, and he's going to bring up questions as we go along. So those are just our general tips on housing. I did have in the last slide some resources, like some websites that we recommend looking at for Chicago housing, and some like subletting options in Chicago. But that's all I have for now. So go ahead, throw your questions in the chat. I'm going to pause for a second in case there's any questions about housing.
I have a question, Jamie, just for the group, just because I've been there in the same situation myself. But so housing is usually unfurnished. Do you have any tips on where to pick up like cheap or free furniture? I would guess maybe Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Usually people give away stuff like that they otherwise would put out in the curb to get picked up by the garbage collection.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rory. So definitely Facebook Marketplace. Absolutely. That's where you can find some of the cheapest stuff. Or there's even Facebook groups that are like giving away furniture for free. Um, then I would also say, Chicago has a wide network of what is it called again? It's called Restore. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name. But there are basically like secondhand shops that are oriented to furniture, actually, where it might be a little bit more affordable. One of them is called Restore. Um, yeah, so I'd also recommend that. Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A, but yeah, if you look in the slides, that's where I've linked some things where you can like find some websites if you are looking for housing and you need a little help. Okay. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Ashley. So OfferUp that offers free or cheap items, and then the Brown Elephant resale shop. Yeah, that's great for cheap furniture. Thank you, Ashley. Okay. Okay, I'll keep it moving because we do have a lot. And then if you have questions about housing, it's never too late. Your question doesn't have to be on exactly the topic I'm talking about. But we're going to go
Jamie,
ahead.
could I chime in with just
Yeah, go ahead.
could I chime in with just one quick thing about housing? When you're looking for accommodation, obviously you really want to think about where it is in location to your employment. At this point, you guys have all secured employment, so you want to make sure that commute it actually makes sense for you. Google Maps is a great way to figure out where an address is and how far it is from your place of employment. I know a lot of you will also be working in the hospitality industry. It might be late hours. That's also something you want to factor in. Will you be on public transport late at night? Will you be making long public transport journeys?
Thanks, Paul. And I'm seeing another question on that topic of location. So what areas would you suggest to live in? I'm almost tempted to pull up a map of Chicago because Chicago is big. Chicago is, 26 miles from like the North Point to the South Point. And it's just a big city of many different neighborhoods. I would generally recommend, like Paul said, close to your work. Now, some of you might be working downtown because that's where a lot of tourism and hospitality is. Closer to downtown will be more expensive. But just to toss out some neighborhoods, I've heard of J1s being in. I have heard of quite a few being in Lakeview or Wrigleyville. Some other maybe affordable, close to downtown spots might be Ukrainian Village, Wicker Park, near UIC. So that's West Town, Pilsen. Those are all neighborhoods that are near downtown, but it might be a little bit more affordable. And then essentially the further away you get from downtown, the more affordable it's going to be. But like Paul said, considering being along the train lines, I'd recommend especially the Red Line and the Blue Line are some train lines you'd want to be close to. I know that just saying that out loud is not ideal, so maybe I'll link the handbook again. I think in our J1 handbook, we have some more tips
Up
on
towards the end of the red line, but also, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Rory.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Jamie, I talked over you there a little bit. I was going to say, somewhere like Rogers Park, which would be a little further up, but it's at the end of the red line, but it's also close by Loyola University. So there may be an opportunity to like sublease from students that are not there over the summer or something like that. So I've had friends that did that before. So, but being close to public transportation is probably pretty key as well for getting around.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we list some of the neighborhoods I just said in the handbook. So I just put that in the chat again so you can see a little bit more. Great question. Okay, so I'm going to keep it going, but again, keep the questions coming. So next up, communicating with your sponsors. So I was thinking about this in order of the tasks, that are coming up for you, right? You're probably looking for housing immediately right now, but you also are starting to figure out logistics with your sponsor. And I do want to clarify one thing I should have said earlier, but I didn't. Our organizations, Irish Community Services and the Ireland Network, we do not have an official role in the J1 process in the same way your sponsor does. So your sponsor is an organization that is formally has a contract with the US or the Irish government to help facilitate the J1 process. This is everything they do. For our organizations, we just noticed that there were some, difficulties in the J1 journey. And so we're just trying to get information to you. But we do not have an official role. And the reason that I clarify that is it is really, really important to be in consistent, clear communication with your sponsor as a result, because they are the representative of the US government, and they're the ones who are ensuring that your the processes that you're going through adhere to the J1 visa requirements. So it's just really important to be in touch with them. Sorry, I accidentally clicked a slide there. And you're supposed to check in with them, immediately when you get to the US, right? So you're getting off the plane, going to wherever you're laying your head down for the night, check in with your sponsor that day. And then you have to check in with them every 30 days after. So, that would look like probably 2 or 3 times over this summer while you're here. Now, you want to talk to your sponsor under other circumstances too, such as if you have any changes in your employment or your housing. So that might include, say you're having some difficulty with your job, maybe the start date got delayed, or maybe you're just not getting any communication or a firm schedule from them. That might be a time to check in with your sponsor. But also, if you want any changes to your job at all, say you want a second job, say you are realizing that your job, you're not really making enough money from it and you would like a way to work more, get some more hours, do not, under any circumstances, get that second job without talking to your sponsor and getting approval from them. The reason I say that is last summer, we did have J1s come to us who got a second job on their own, or maybe had some unexpected changes in their jobs, and they thought that they could start that or make that change and tell their sponsor after the fact. But sponsors see that as engaging in unauthorized employment, and that's a violation of your visa. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on, but there are some pretty serious consequences if you change your job or housing situation without their approval. Also, if you want to travel outside of the US, I think that's, kind of a rare circumstance. I think J1s, you're more so traveling within the US. But yeah, that's just another time. Talk to your sponsor. Okay. Okay, we did get another question about housing. So is it typical to request full payment for 10 weeks of accommodation before you arrive? So that's a really good question. So personally, I have had 12-month visa or 12-month leases in Chicago, not more the short-term month-to-month leases that you all are looking for. I have seen and heard of landlords asking for that full 2 to 3 months payment because it's a short-term stay. I have seen that, unfortunately. But for longer leases, they really only should be asking for a 1 month deposit. I'm curious, Rory or Paul, what you've seen, or if you have any input on that as well. And no worries if you don't.
No. I think it sometimes happens when, like, a security for the landlord, try to do a short-term lease, trying to get deposits. It's a risk for them too. I would be cautious around this. And I would wonder if there is any way of verifying, is this an individual? Is this a property management company? Is there any other, sign of them online, with any of these kind of reviews, that sort of thing? I would be cautious. I don't think it's unheard of, but it would make me nervous.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I guess probably not unheard of, but wouldn't be typical.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I definitely recommend using, some of those tips we said earlier just to verify the legitimacy of the landlord. Also thinking about how you're making that payment. Obviously, because you are in Ireland, you're probably going to have to make that payment online. But it is bigger property managers. They might have an online portal that you make that payment through, which I would say is a little more legitimate than if it's through an app or something like that. So just try to verify the legitimacy through a few different ways in general. It's a good question. Okay, so we're going to switch gears. You get here, you tell your sponsor you're here. What else do you have to do? What are some other logistics and paperwork? So you have to apply for a social security number. You can start your job without having that in place, but we do want you to apply for it as soon as you can. I linked the online application here, which is really quick, and you can do that online application as soon as you have a US address. So if you know where you're living for the summer, you can do that today. You can do that right now. Just make sure that the US address you're using is it's somewhere you can receive mail, right? So if you're going to come here and do an Airbnb for 1 to 2 weeks, that wouldn't be good enough. We want somewhere that you're going to be long-term and you can receive mail from the Social Security Administration. After you do this really quick little application, at the end of it, you're going to get a screen that has your online control number. Go ahead and screenshot that. It's going to look exactly like this and print it, because the next step is you have to go to the Social Security Administration in person. And you're going to have to bring some paperwork. You're going to have to bring that, what did I call it? I already forgot, online control number. And you're going to finish the process in person. So for making that online appointment, you want to make sure that you've notified your sponsor that you're here and that you activate your SEVIS about a week before. I don't know all the reasons that's necessary, but it's just necessary, I guess, to make sure that the US government knows that you are officially in the US as a J1 visitor before you get this Social Security number. So you want to make sure you activate your SEVIS first, but then you can go ahead, look into your closest Social Security office, which I showed you in this slide how you can find that. Just use your zip code and call and make an appointment. And you have to make that appointment within 45 days of doing your online application. So I know I'm going through these steps kind of quickly because I think we're only 2/3 of the way through our slides, and we did want time for some more questions. But it's laid out pretty clearly step by step in these slides. So please save these slides and then just use the links in there to apply online, make your appointment once you get here, and finish this up. And then again, I mentioned you're going to have to bring the original copies of a few different documents. So that DS 2019 document, your Irish passport, and then you'll need a letter from your sponsor. I do want to say the DS 2019 and the Irish passport, you're going to need that for like every kind of type of appointment you're doing in the US. Those two things are really, really important for you. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about those documents. So your Irish passport, that's really important to keep safe and sound. Unfortunately, it is something that is targeted with theft. The things we see stolen the most are Irish passports and phones. So those are important to keep safe and sound. And one way you can do that is by applying for an Irish passport card. So this is a card that instead of taking, the actual original passport with you, like in your purse as you go out and about, you're traveling to work and after and out for fun, rather than bringing the passport, if you get this card, you can have that card in your wallet and use that as your identification. I'm going to be transparent that I've heard that that is a little hit or miss in terms of being accepted in every type of venue. Maybe sometimes they do want the original passport, but I'd still recommend getting this card just so you're not taking the passport with you every day since it is at risk of theft. Also take pictures of the DS 2019 and your Irish passport just so you have that information somewhere electronically. And then if it is stolen, contact the Irish consulate immediately. A passport can be replaced. It's important that you're fast about it and that you work on it as quickly as you can. Also in regards to your visa, I mentioned earlier that if there's any change in your job status, you have to tell your sponsor. Because if you don't, you're engaging in unauthorized employment and your visa can be canceled. In addition to canceling your visa, some other consequences could be deportation and being denied future entry to the US, because essentially it is breaking the law to engage in any work that isn't approved by your sponsor in the US government. So there are some really, really serious consequences. That's why I talk about it several times throughout this PowerPoint. And another thing to note is, you all are coming on a J1 visa, but you might have friends who are coming here under the visa waiver program, right? Because if you're an Irish citizen, you can travel to the US like on a holiday without a visa, right? So something we see a lot is people come to the US under that visa waiver, but then maybe they do still try to get some sort of casual or summer work. That's not allowed. Don't do it. Tell all your friends, don't do it. Because if they do it, there are some really serious consequences like deportation and maybe jeopardizing the ability to come back to the US in the future. Okay, I'm going to stop harping on that. That's just something I have to harp on a few times. Okay, so again, if you have questions about what I said about visas, your social security number, throw it in the Q&A. And I think I'm almost kind of wrapped up. But we did want to mention banking a little bit because I got 3 questions from you all about banking. So to be honest, this is not something that I've gotten questions on before. So I think we're going to try to improve the information we have on it, but I just wanted to give a couple of tips to start. We typically see J1 students opening a US bank account once they get here, just because that's the easiest way to get their paycheck from their US employer. That's just kind of the most straightforward way that you can ensure, if you're getting direct deposit from your boss or your employer, they can get it right into your bank account pretty seamlessly without too many challenges. And you are allowed to open a US bank account. Kind of the biggest barrier to it is having a US proof of address. You're probably, in terms of the documents you'll need, it varies from bank to bank, but you will probably need some proof of address. So that means, you're going to have to wait until you're here in the US and kind of get that copy of your lease to bring when you open a checking account. I have, again, some general tips linked on this, so go ahead and look at that in the slides. There are some pros and cons to consider, whether you're looking at more of like a large national bank or more of like a local smaller bank account or maybe credit union. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna kind of let you look into that yourself. I've linked a few articles with tips and tricks and considerations. And another question we got in advance was, can I use my Irish bank account? So technically, yes. Theoretically, you can, but this is something I don't have experience with too much. Paul and I talked about it. We're not sure all of that, what that might entail and what challenges you might run into if you're trying to use your Irish bank account in the US. But there could be some challenges because there are fees when it comes to, like internationally, I guess having international transfers, right, between two countries. There's often fees associated with that. So if you're okay with the fees, then that could work for you. The only issue is with getting your paycheck, your employer might not want to pay those fees, right? So I didn't have time to kind of figure out all the nuances of that. And again, Rory or Paul, if you want to talk on that a little bit better than I can, you're welcome to. But we might try to look into this a bit more for you all down the road. Okay, filing taxes. So money, money, money. So you get here, you get all this great money into your bank account and you have a great summer and then you have to leave. But you're not done, sadly. You are not done with the US government. They're going to come after you for paying those taxes. So, the US tax system, it is kind of different from the Irish and other European tax systems. You do have to file taxes as an individual on your own in 2025. And in order to do that, you have to make sure that your boss this summer has your Irish home address or your email so that they can send the tax returns to you. We do see a lot of employers might just do that online over email or an online portal. If they do it online, make sure you save, that online account that they do that with. Make sure you save your username, that password. Make sure you save your boss's phone number, email, all of that, maybe even HR department, because it can be tough to chase down that tax information, almost a year later. So do all of that this summer. Don't forget to talk to your boss about it. And then ideally next January or February, you're going to get that information. You have to file those taxes on your own. The US tax system is complicated. Most people in the US, we use online services to help us file taxes. I literally would not know how to do it without paying H&R Block, a few dollars to help me. And there are some online services that are more specific to international workers. I even think one of these websites, it's specific to Irish international workers, I believe. So I linked some websites here that can help you. They have guides for J1 students on how to do this. And also all the documents, again, you just need that passport and that DS 2019. You need it for everything, right? So just make sure that next January, February, March, you don't forget about this. And, if you look at these slides, you'll get everything you need to file those taxes. Okay, I am talking a lot. I have another poll for you. So let's do a poll so that I stop talking a little bit. And then I think I'm gonna hand it back over to Rory to talk about safety a little bit, right, Rory? That's what we said. Okay, so I'll do a poll and then hand it over to you. Okay. Okay, so this poll, we're just asking, what is your biggest safety concern with your J1 journey? And we'll see how much we speak to that. So I opened the poll. Let's see if any answers are coming through. And these answers are anonymous. I don't think we're seeing your names with them, if that helps. Okay, we'll wait for a few more answers. I'll just give it one more minute or so. Okay, let's go ahead. If you do still want to share, you can toss it in the Q&A, but I'm going to end the poll just for the sake of time. And let's share the results. Okay. Oops. Okay. Okay. Can you guys, oh no. Okay. It does show. Okay. So I'm actually, okay. I apologize. Sorry. I'm a little bit new to polls. So I'm going to look at the results on my own and stop sharing just so we can see what people said. I just want to protect privacy here. Okay, so some things I'm seeing is traveling home at night, theft, and violence. Yeah, okay, those are fair concerns. Okay, I will hand it back over to you, Rory, but I can click through the slides for you.
Yeah, sounds great, Jamie. Thank you. Just maybe on that point alone, because that was one of the points I was going to bring up, and I'll get through these slides pretty quick here, so we can leave some time for Q&A. But I would say just spend the $20 on the Uber. Don't try and just get home. There's again, in all seriousness, 27 summers, in Chicago, things happen, and you get into bad situations. Just always just take the safe option, get in an Uber and get home. In terms of safety, again, all of you guys, I'm sure, are going to college in big cities, and it's no different than a Dublin or a Galway or Cork. There's good areas and bad areas in every city. Chicago may be a little different. I mean, there's a lot of guns. Situations can go downhill quick. So, just do all of the things that you do in regular big cities. Again, you're all adults, but doing better. It's easy to let your guard down after you're having fun in a friendly environment where you're having beers and having the crack. But then when you're back out in the streets, you may be a little more taking risks or whatever. Don't just get home safely and look out for each other because, again, just being blunt, we know there's going to be partying, we know there's going to be people that are going to get drunk and whatever. So look out for your friends, don't leave, make sure everyone's accounted for, and just make sure everyone gets home safely. I think that probably sums up most of what's on this slide here if you want to go to the next one. So just some best practices again. So, safety, I can't overemphasize that. And in all seriousness, look out for each other, be safe, and have an enjoyable summer. Nobody wants to end up injured or having a police record or any of that stuff. And, that is serious stuff, and I've had friends who have gotten into those tough situations and they're, not easy to get out of. So stay together, but split up. J1ers tend to travel in packs. I did when I was a J1er. Me and my friends these days have a competition usually to see who spots the J1er first in the summer, and you usually see the one lad in the Roscommon jersey and the hurl walking down Michigan Avenue. But that was me back in the day too. So stay together for safety, but split up and kind of don't, get out of the scene. Don't, clearly there's going to be fun nights and fun everything, but go to a museum, go kayak in the river, get out and look at a Frank Lloyd Wright house. Chicago's got a rich, deep cultural history. Have a read up on it before you come over. Look at there's so many historical figures and great stories from Chicago that you can dive into when you're here. Again, we touched on it several times, but be respectful. People, the local culture. Again, America is a very polarizing place right now, a lot more so than when I came over here. But I think, generally Chicago is a democratic city, so I still advice would be don't talk politics. That's just too polarizing. So just uh, it was on a previous slide and I didn't touch on it, but be respectful of their property. I think it's probably gotten better now, but about 10 years ago, J1ers had a very bad reputation for leaving houses in a mess and holes in walls and throwing parties and all that. Just be aware, pay it forward, good karma. Someone else has to come next year and probably has to ask that same landlord for maybe it's you coming for a second time, and it just leaves a bad taste in landlord's mouth. And it's a small community of landlords, and as I said, I think it's a little bit better now. About 10 years ago, landlords wouldn't touch a house with J1ers in it, um, just because so many were left in bad conditions. We can go to the next slide there then again. And yeah, just very quick, is the last slide, and we'll have questions then. Just wanted to highlight the Ireland Network Chicago events that are relevant for you guys. The annual boat cruise is on June 12th. Definitely recommend that. Definitely recommend check out our website. There's a J1 membership. I think it's like $20 or something like that. But definitely worthwhile. Just if you came to the first Friday alone, you'd get 6 drinks for that. So the boat cruise is a great opportunity to, again, even if you can't make the boat cruise, that would be probably one of the things I'd recommend go do. Do the architectural boat cruise when you get into town to get your bearings on what's north, south, east, and west. And the Gaelic Park J1 outing, that's something that dates to be confirmed, but that's something that we typically do. Celtic Crossings is kind of one of the main pubs in downtown that everyone goes to. So you'll definitely be there at some point, but usually pick up a few school bus full of people at Celtic Crossings and the Kerryman, and have a great old day down in Gaelic Park watching the games for a Sunday and having a DJ and a party down there, and we get you back to the north side safely and stuff like that. So look out for that. And I think that's it, Jamie. I think there's the stay in touch slide. So definitely connect on the socials. Definitely reach out with emails to find out any more about any of the events. Jamie, did you have anything to close with before questions?
No, I think that's great. Yeah. Again, please, I would just, I shared the link for these slides, like save that link because there's just everything you would need. I know we had to skim over some of it kind of quickly. It's all in there. And then, yeah, all of our social medias and ways of connecting with us are in this slide. So definitely save that information. But yeah, I think that's it other than final Q&A. So I might stop sharing the slides and just make it so you all can see our faces. And I know we had it where you can't see each other's faces. So make sure you join like those J1 groups, like there's ways that you all find each other who are coming to Chicago. So maybe join those J1 Facebook groups. I don't know if there's Instagram, etc., to get to know each other.
Yeah, there's one called J1 Crack. Look up that one. That's again, look up both of our socials. We usually repost anything that's relevant to J1ers, but J1 Crack is a good one. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so we'll stay for a few minutes for final questions. We're looking at the Q&A. And I will say that we are going to, this was a little bit of a test run, but I think maybe we'll have some orientations in the future that are more in advance earlier in the spring and like even more information. So if there were some topics missing, please know that we're welcome to hear it, like hear questions even about stuff we didn't get to. And yeah, I'll just give it another minute.
While we're seeing if any questions come in, if I could just mention 2 things that popped into my head. The first is that J1s will be issued with a social security card and a social security number. That is yours forever. So it'll be tied to you forever. So if you're ever coming back, whether that's on the year-long graduate visa, if you come back in the future to work, it will be the same social security you use or number. So keep that safe. And the second thing I wanted to mention was just there is a cultural difference to law enforcement that I think is important to be aware of. So I think the Gardaí at home would be much more open to, you want to call it banter, backtalk, being challenged. The police here are not, and they are armed. So I would say when you're engaging with law enforcement, keep that in mind.
Very much so. And again, just to piggyback on that, there's always something, there's always a fight or an argument or something. Just be cognizant of people have guns in this country. So that's it. Chicago, don't, if a fight starts, no matter what the situation is, turn the other way and just walk away. That's the best thing you can do. So
There was one question.
Mm-hmm.
Talks focused on more of the graduate visas, or more information provided today relevant to that.
Mm.
I think we did talk, Paul. We haven't solidified anything, but we talked about doing a follow-up to this towards the end of the summer, and maybe pulling in some of our Ireland network attorneys in the network that could kind of present on that natural progression from, again, just myself personally. I came to Chicago on a J1 visa, loved it, made some great friends. Again, one thing I didn't touch on: get out your Irish group and go out and make friends with Americans. They're very nice people. So I married one. I have three of them that I created. So um, get out, get into the culture. Don't get stuck in the Irish pub all summer. It's great to go there on a Friday night and meet the friends, but make a concerted effort to go out and get into other avenues of social stuff. But yeah, towards the end of the summer, I think we'll follow up with more details and get it out onto the socials. But we talked about as you're finishing your summer and what you would maybe like to do in terms of that next step to a graduate visa. I would say the quick advice right now is make connections, get relationships with people. If you're, I'm from an engineering background, so I did actually make some connections in construction industry and design industry that I came back the next summer, followed up on. Eventually, got a real job over here. So, be cognizant of that. Have one eye in the future. Definitely, your focus is probably on having the crack for the summer, and you'll have the crack for the summer no matter what. But have an eye on postgraduates and making those connections now that you have someone real to reach out to with a resume is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I think, Josh, in regards to like more information on graduate visas, yeah, we can definitely consider that. I think we oriented this towards summer J1 visitors just because that's who we get the most like inquiries from. And it's, yeah, but I think, I think the number of Irish J1 graduate visitors is much smaller. So sometimes it's harder to figure out what's going on for you all. What are the ways you need support? But we're definitely open to learning more about that. And you're welcome to be in touch in regards to that too. And Paul has some helpful thoughts too. So yeah, any other questions? I know we're at the hour, so you're welcome to hop off. But if there are any final questions, we'll take them. And we just thank you so much for joining us, and we really hope we'll see you this summer or hear from you.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. And yeah, feel free to follow up with emailed questions if you think of something after we hang up here. And yeah, have fun, be safe. That's the main thing.
Okay.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, guys. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Paul, for hosting. We'll talk soon. Thanks very much.
Sounds good. Nice meeting you.
Yep. Cheers. Bye.